All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages. In a moment, I'm going to be going over some fractions, adding fractions with unlike denominators, using the fraction strips. We started it yesterday. Some of you went through it and struggled, and that's fine. I wanted you to try it on your own and see what we could do. And somebody left their journal on the floor. That would be Antonio. So I want to go over some today. Yes, sir. I don't care if you get a new chair. I don't know why you walk in front of the camera. All right. So I want to show you a few things. I filmed in the first class, so if you want to watch at home, you'll have an opportunity to watch those videos. I'm filming in this class right now, so you'll have an opportunity to watch this later at home, unless your mom has grounded you from YouTube. Moms.
Yeah.
And I'll try and record. Now, generally my third class is a bunch of knotheads, so I may not be able to record during that time. As I said also yesterday, you really may want to watch some of the YouTube videos from this week. They will really be helpful for the quiz for next week. They will really be helpful for the quiz next week if you watch the YouTube videos that I'm filming this week. I'm filming some after school. It is on Thursday. See, what I did is I chose a student in my first class. I said, we're going to take a test next week. Which day would you like to take it? And I let her pick.
She could pick Friday. No, Fridays.
I was really hoping she'd pick Halloween, but
Same here.
she did it.
She should have picked today.
All right, so when we're adding with fractions, well, today's not next week, so that would have been impossible. When we're adding with fraction strips, we're adding with unlike denominators. We are using, first, we want to compare and see how we are compared to 1. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm always going to start with my 1 up there. So when I give you an activity to do, and you say, I need help, and you don't have the 1 up there, then I'm going to say, you don't need help, you're not doing what the directions said. There you go, yes I am. Then I'm going to go, no you're not, because you don't have the problem set up. And then you'll go, oh yeah, and you'll go back and do it. So let's try and avoid all that conversation that we have there. We're going to start with a problem. Let's do... heck, I'm going to make one up. Let's do 5, 6 plus 1/2. 5, 6 plus 1/2. And I'm just making this up, so it's not anywhere. Well, it may be somewhere, but it's, unless it's an accident, it's not on anything you have. So the first thing I do is I want to set up the problem. This is my 5/6.
But that's not right.
Oh, that's my 1. That's my 4/5. This is my 5/6. Man, you know everything.
The 1.
Man, and this is my 1/2. So what does this tell me right away without doing anything?
That.
It is an improper fraction. How do you know that? Because it's greater than 1. This is an improper fraction because it's greater than 1. Okay? Right now, there are some of you, well, there were some in my first class that claimed they've never changed an improper fraction to a mixed number before. So for right now, I'm not going to require it. Some of you know how, so you can do it when I give you this activity. But we have 5/6 plus 1/2. So this is the problem. Your second line down here needs to be the problem. So when you say, I need help, and I don't see, you have the 1 up there, and I don't see the problem here, which is my 5/6 plus my 1/2, then I'm probably going to pull out all my hair on my back. I don't want to pull it out on my head because it's too hard to grab on, and I'm not pulling the beard out. The beard is really who I am.
Just Braid it.
I might have to do that someday. So now, your third line. This is where we had trouble with yesterday. This third line that you're putting here has to have all the same denominator. And I need to be able to put all the same denominator so that it lines up evenly with my problem. I know some of you are looking at this and you're going like, well, I can do that, without the fraction pieces. But the important part is for you to see the fraction pieces. It helps you understand exactly how the problem works so you can visualize it. Now, those of you that don't watch me go over it, you're going to have more trouble visualizing it. Because right now you're visualizing yourself eating a big bowl of ice cream, and that's fine. I visualize myself eating a big bowl of ice cream all the time. All right, so now I need to find fractions. They have to have the same denominator. That is very, very mandatory. I can't let's put some 1/5, let's take a half, let's take some eighths, because then I'm not going to have a common denominator when I find my answer. We can't have, when you're adding fractions together or subtracting, you have to have a common denominator. That is why we have to use the same denominator here. Now what's going to happen? I'm going to tell you a little secret. What's going to happen is you're going to have to take, if you have one here, let's just pretend. I'm just pretending here. If it was 8, if my denominator was 8, I'm not going to have enough eighths to go past 1. So I may have to remember that this was 1/8, and I may have to move some eighths down here. And bang, that doesn't fit. But I may have to take some of my eighths and move it past, because I'm not going to have enough eighths to go down past my 1. Does that make sense? All right. There's someone that I work with that when she's doing presentations and talking, she always says, now does that make sense? Now does that make sense? So I like to keep track of how many times she says it. I think mine is okay. Okay. I'm probably say okay. We could make a bar graph, but we probably wouldn't have enough paper. Or our scale would have to be, counting by 20s in order to finish it, okay? One of my pastors always says too, now listen to me. Now listen to me. So I feel like I should. And I had worked with an assistant principal who always said library. I need to see you in the library. Which always cracked me up. Yes, sir.
My dad and I, we were talking about how people in some schools say library. Mm-hmm. And no wonder some of the kids just walk around saying library. Yeah, makes me insane.
Ricky, she just gave you a note. Make sure you read it, okay? You want to read it out loud for the camera? No. Should he, Kayla? Or would that embarrass you?
No.
Oh. If Kayla's mom watches this, Kayla's mom's going to know that she's passing notes to boys. And you're too young to pass notes to boys. All right, what we've been doing here in the past couple days, is we've been talking about least common multiple. You had to do that on the paper. I think it was the geologist side, and where you found least common multiple. I don't have to use that in order to solve this problem, but that's going to tell me my denominator, which makes finding my fraction pieces much easier. So if you had to find the least common multiple, I would take my two denominators and I would just start listing, and I'd go and find my least common multiple, like looking at my multiplication chart, and take it all the way out until I find the first number that's in both. So this tells me right here, my least common multiple, my least common denominator, called denominator because it's the denominators in the fraction, is going to be 6. So that means I'm going to use my 6 fraction pieces, which means I'm going to have to borrow some from here. Now what you're going to see on the problems you're going to do is it's going to ask you to do two things. It's going to ask you on some of them when you have to change the fraction so they have a common denominator. Well, if my common denominator is 6, this one is already 5, 6. So it'll give you the problem. It'll say 5, 6 plus 1/2 equals blank plus blank. And you'd put 5, 6 here. And whatever you get here for the number 6 in this is what you'd put there, and then you just solve it. I'm just saying.
How much?
Yes, I'm just saying. Yes, ma'am.
It would be 5, 6 plus 3 6.
I know that. I know that. So now, I know this is 5, 6. I know I have 5, 6. I know 5, 6 equals 5, 6. I need to see how many 6 are in 1/2. Well, because Tatum ruined it for all of us, and now it's not a surprise. I know that 1/2 equals 3, 6. You are all going to be like, wow! But Tatum told us. So this one equals 3, 6. So when it has the two blanks, 5, 6 plus 3, 6. And then I'll give your answer. And 5 plus 3 is 8. So my answer would be 8, 6. Now right now, for those of you pretending that you never learned how to change improper fractions to mixed numbers, we're going to leave it. Is this about my math?
No.
Can you wait? That'd be awesome. Because I don't want, the people on the camera, if you're like saying, hey, all my hair is falling out, and then they'll hear it and laugh. Yes, sir. This can be simplified, and it can be changed to a mixed number. Yes. But for right now, we're going to leave it like it is. We'll move into simplifying and changing improper fractions to mixed numbers here at a later date. Now listen to me. Now let's see, that's what my pastor does. Now listen to me. We're not working in the library. Does that make sense? Unless I just said that because...
It makes dollars.
Hey, that's what I like to say. All right, so let's look at maybe, I don't know, a couple more. Let's try 1/2 plus 3/10. Evidently, I like 1/2. So, first, if you're going to ask me for help, first, I need to see the 1 up here. Then, I need to see the problem. 1/2 plus 3/10. It won't be an improper fraction. It will be a proper fraction. Meaning, in my answer, my numerator will be less than my denominator. Because that means I didn't take all of the pieces that were there. If it's improper fraction, I took more of the pieces than are there. It's like, let's say, it's like Elijah brings home a pizza and it's cut into 8 equal pieces. And he eats 9 of them. That means he's eaten 1 1/8 of the pizza. So he's eaten more than there is in one. It is possible. Because he bought 2 pizzas.
Oh, yeah.
He must have been hungry.
It was one of those little mini pizzas. So, yeah, it wasn't that bad. So now I have 1/2 and 1/10. I'm going to pretend like I don't know. I'm going to pretend like I don't know the common denominator. So let's see if I can do thirds here. Oh, no, 3/3 is too small. 3/3 also equals 1. So I should have been able to figure that out. Oh, too big. Let's try fifths. I know it's upside down. Don't give me...
Give me a
Ooh,
break.
wait a minute.
Yay!
Fifths work. Fifths work. So, according to my research, 1/2 plus 3/10 is 4/5. Let's see if any others work. Because 4/5 is actually going to be it in simplified form. Let's try tenths.
Let's try 18.
Well, I'm not going to have enough tenths to go along because I only have 10 tenths. But if I know 1/2 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths, and I know I have 3 more than my 5 tenths because they're still there, I could just Boom, shakalaka them down. And so now I have 5/10. 3/10 equals 3/10. It's an addition problem. I'm also tell you that when I ask you to do these, I ask you to write them vertically because it's easier for you to change them over to common denominators if your fractions are going to end up being side by side where you change them. So I'm just saying. So now we figured out that this is going to be how many tenths? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths. But we also figured out that it could be 4/5. And now you visualize it, you've seen it, that those are the exact same value. The exact same value. But Logan is like, well, can you just at least show them? Because I already know how to get from 8/10 to 4/5. Because he already knows. We're going to simplify. And this is why I taught you greatest common factor before we work on this. Because you must, and I mean must, use the greatest common factor when you're simplifying fractions. It's the law, people. It is the law. You will be maybe arrested. I don't know. I don't have a badge, so I can't tell you for sure. So let's see how we changed 8/10 to 4/5. Greatest common factors. Factors are the numbers that multiply together. So if I had my numerator and my denominator, and I'm going to find all the factors of 8 and all the factors of 10. But before I do that, Kayla, let me ask you a question. Since you're now not writing notes to pass to boys, I can ask you this question. Are either of these numbers prime, Kayla? No. Excellent. They're not prime because these are both even numbers. The only even number that is prime is
2.
So 2 is the only even prime number. So if you're finding the factors of any even number, then 2 has got to be one of your factors. And I saw that when you were doing the shark thing yesterday. People would do it, and just because it would be like 50, they're like, 10 and 5, are there any others? I don't know. And I'd be like, is it even? And they'd be like, well, yeah. And then I'd be like, well, have you seen how many times 2 goes into it? And they'd be like, no. Am I supposed to count by 2s on my fingers all the way to 50? And then I'd be like, well, you could divide it 2 into 50. And then they'd be like, that's a lot of work. And then I'd be like, do it anyway. And they'd be like, well, I don't want to. And then I'd be like, do it anyway. And they'd be like, okay. So I'm going to find the factors of 8 and 10. So Kristen, I'm going to give you a choice. Will you give me the factors of 8 or 10? Which one? 8. So tell me the factors of 8, Kristen.
1.
Good.
2.
Good.
4.
Good.
8.
Good. These are my factors of 8. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. Those are my factors of 8. Let's see. Natalie, will you tell me my factors for 10?
5. 2.
Good. 1 times 10, 5 times 2. Those are my factors of 10. We know all this, Mr. McMurdo. How does that help me simplify the fraction? Well, that's an excellent. I'm glad you raised your hand, Victoria, because then I can have you help me with Gunner. Will you tell me what they have in common?
Well, they have 1
They have a 1 in common.
and they have 2 in common.
And they have a 2 in common. Anything else? No. So my greatest common factor is 2. Now to simplify fractions, once I have found my greatest common factor, I'm going to divide both my numerator and denominator by the greatest common factor. my numerator and denominator by the greatest common factor. Because what you do to the top, you do to the bottom. You know, I like to draw that little 1 around it, so you know you're doing it the same way. Now, let's see. Victoria, thank you for raising your hand. What is 8 divided by 2?
4.
4. And what is 10 divided by 2?
5.
5. So now I'm saying 8/10 is equal to 4/5. And we can see why that works. We can see why that works. How awesome. Man, I did a horrible job teaching this last year. It was very confusing to me. So I stayed up all night, every night during the summer to figure out how to do it. 4/5. 8/10 is equal to 4/5. Let's look at a couple more, because I don't want to give you very much time to work on your classwork because I'm mean. Let's take the problem. Ooh, this is a good one. No, I don't like that one. Let's take. Oh, that's a good one too.
You don't like it?
Let's take. Good. 1/3 plus 1/6. Now let's make it 2/3 plus 1/6. So we'll do 2/3 plus 1/6. Now, I know we're only doing adding fractions with unlike denominators. We will be eventually moving into subtracting fractions with unlike denominators using the fraction strips. But you know, we got to take it a little slow. We don't want to jump all the way through here. We're not using the Pythagorean theorem so quickly. So we're slowing down. So I have my 1 I'm comparing it to. I take my 2/3. What color are my thirds? Black. My 2/3. And I'm adding 1/6. 2/3, 1 plus 1/6. Proper or improper? Proper. Proper. So now I need to find pieces of the same denominator that are going to line up exactly like that. Pieces with the same denominator. Let's try. Oh, no, too short.
Like so close.
Fourths. Oh, even more too short.
Half and a 1/2. Eddie, you can't do 2 different types.
1/2. Too short. Eighths. Let's try eighths. Let's see. If I have enough eighths to make this exactly. Oh, it's either too small or too big. You want to try tenths? All right, let's try tenths. Tenths are purple.
My favorite color.
You know, think that they're foamy. They should bounce right back up into my hand, but they don't.
Some days I wish they were rubber.
One more. No, isn't it?
Try 12.
12.
I could try 12. I always like to start with the bigger ones, just because that's the way I roll.
I think this is going to equal it.
Wait a minute. If 1/3 equals 2/6, and 2/3 will then equal. Pretend like there's a 6th here, because we just moved it.
But there's 2 up there. There's 2 more there. There's 2 more there.
Oh, never mind.
This is awesome.
It's upside down.
I don't care. So 2/3 equals how many 6? 4 6. And I've proven that right there. I've proven that right there. But I also have, I have to add this. I've got 4 6, and I need to add the 1/6 to it. And so I get a fraction of 5 6. Now I could go through, let's do it. We'll find the greatest common factor of 5 and 6. Kayla, is 6 prime? No, because it's an even number. And the only even number that is prime is? 2. Man, you guys are smart.
What about -2?
We're only talking factors right now. We're only doing positive numbers. Next year you'll get into negative numbers.
Okay.
But primes don't Well, I can't say for certain. So I'm just making this up. But I don't think prime and composite numbers go into the negatives. I don't think.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but I don't think they do.
Okay.
So let's go with Reagan. Can you tell me the factors of 5? 5 and 1. Any others? So that makes it what kind of number, Reagan? Prime. Prime. Yeah, you're probably going to want to know the prime numbers between 1 and 100 for the test on Thursday. I'm just saying. Seriously. But you'll have your journal, obviously. So.
I didn't do that right. Look, I didn't do it right.
Well, then do it right.
I don't know how.
And the factors for 6, Cora. What are my factors for 6? They hate it. See, if I look at Hannah, but then I call Cora, they get really mad because Hannah's all excited. He's going to call me. And then Cora's like, she's all excited because he's not going to call me. And then I fool them both. All right, Cora. 2 and 3.
2 and 3. 6 and 1.
6 and 1. Anything else? That's just it. Good. So, Hannah, what do they have in common? What are my common factors? That's it. If the greatest common factor is 1, you cannot simplify the fraction. This is already in lowest terms. This is already simplified down as small as you can make it. So if the greatest common factor of the fraction is 1, you're done. 1 and done. 1 and done. See, that's what last night at choir, when my daughters are getting ready to sing at the church thing on Sunday. And so they're singing, and I was dancing, and my youngest, Mia, she looked at me and she said, because she wanted me to stop dancing and clapping evidently, I don't know, she's kind of crazy that way. Kind of mean that way. So, this is what you're going to do. Some of you may have finished it yesterday. And if you finished it yesterday, then I'll give you something else. Not like an assignment, but kind of an activity. You are going to do, and my first class again made me crazy. You're going to do page 199. Just 199. So if I only put page 199 on here, that means you don't have to do 200. Some of you already finished it, but that's fine. And you're going to do problems 1 through 10. My first class. Mr. McMurdo, do we have to do 11, 12, and 13? Well, is 11, 13, 1 through 10? No. Mr. McMurdo, do we have to do the other side on page 200? Well, is 200 page 199? No, it's not. So, yes, silly questions were asked. Yes, silly questions were asked. Ethan.
Can we do page 200 for extra credit or something?
If you want to do page 200, do page 200 and turn it in, and then I'll consider what I'm going to do. I'm going to start the next 6 weeks offering some extra credit each week. Haven't quite gotten there yet, but I will completely prepare it.
Is that the last extra credit thing? This is coming soon.
Yeah, that's what on the flex options coming soon, extra credit. All right, peace out. God bless. Boom shakalaka. Love you. Do not run in front of this.